Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. I have a lot of material to cover, so we're going to be going through this. Anyway, yesterday, sorry for not being here, but I did give you a brand new show. Yesterday, it was pre-recorded because I had to take Ashley to get her follow-up MRI. You know that they want to keep tabs on what's going on, so that's one of the reasons that I was not here. But we're back today, live, everything. So let's see. Welcome aboard, Yvette Avery Herod. Buenas tardes, corazón. Buenas tardes from Atlanta, Georgia. AVQ is in the house. Michael Rutman from Brooklyn, New York. Breach MCP in La Casa from Binghamton, New York, which is the northern part of New York, right? There we go. We also have in the house Channel H Dunbar, who says, Go Fox News. Channel H Dunbar, where are you from? I like to call out where people are from. Eric Hayes, Kingwood, Atascocita. And people are still chiming in. As you come in. If you throw a message in the chat, if I've never called you out, put where you're from so that I can go ahead and call you in. Anyway, let's get started. Bridge has a long piece so far. She says, Egberto Willies, why is the GOP flooding us with so many partisan polls to make it seem like the race is far better for Trump than it is? What's the point of all that? You see, if people are led to believe it is tied, then it must also be true that half of America thinks it's some way to pick Trump despite everything we know about him. It normalizes him. It tells us all that these horrific things don't matter, and we begin to believe that because the polls are telling us so, but the polls are bunk, and the GOP knows from internal polling that Trump's in trouble and that they have to shore him up. That's why they're flooding us with partisan polls. 60 GOP leaning ones, all paid for by Republicans and dropped into the mix recently, all in the battleground states. Don't buy into it. No, we cannot buy into those polls, nor will we buy into those polls. Even the one from NBC that comes out tie, these guys are waiting. They're so scared of what they think occurred in 2016 and also 2020 in Michigan that they're applying a certain kind of weight. What they forget is that people don't are no longer embarrassed to say they're voting for Trump. In fact, they're more likely to say they're voting for Trump than to come straight out and say, I am voting for Kamala. Think about you calling a red part of Austin, Texas. Austin, Texas, not Austin, Texas, because that's a liberal city. A red part of Lufkin, Texas, and say, I am voting for Kamala. Is there somebody listening? Oh my God, no, no. No, it's not. Remember, what I say stand is going to be not as close as people believe it's going to be at all. Anyway, continuing, Bridge also says this is a joke. So is this MAGA sheriff? Why was SS involved? Why did they let him go on 5K bond? Look, this is just weird. It was serious. If it was serious, the SS would be involved and he would not have been let go. Man arrested at Trump rally for guns say he's a Trump supporter, rejects assassination attempt claim. Vern Miller, 49, was traveling in an unregistered black SUV when he was stopped by police at a security checkpoint near the rally in Coachella Valley. When authorities searched the vehicle, they found a shotgun, a loaded handgun, and a high capacity magazine, as well as multiple passports and driver's license with different names, according to the Riverside County Sheriff's Office. Miller was taken into custody and booked at a local jail in Indio, California, on suspicions of possessing a loaded firearm at a high capacity magazine. He was released on Saturday on 5,000 bail. Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco told reporters Sunday that he believes police thwarted a third attempt to kill the former president of the Republican nominee for the White House in 2024. I truly believe we prevented another assassination attempt, Bianco said. We know we prevented something bad from happening, he said, and it was irrelevant what that bad was going to be. And then, of course, they let him out. Don't believe it. Others have already stated that this wasn't an assassination attempt. This guy is a supporter of Trump and also a supporter of, all these MAGA people love their guns, man. Love their guns. Paul Fleming says, ain't it funny that the story had been Kamala is losing support from young black men, but people from Gerardo Rivera to Dick Cheney said they're going to vote for her, and yet none on how Trump is losing support from old white ones. You know what? I was going to play my Medicare. I brought that up, brother Paul Fleming, who is from Powder Springs, Atlanta. I'm going to play the piece that I did this morning on KPFT. Welcome aboard, Tom C. from Mid Michigan. How you doing, my brother? And Peggy Lopez is in the house from California. Where is it? What part of California again? I don't remember. It's Long Beach. And in the house, Tom C says, saw Trump Vance sign today that said, vote for men. Huh? That is funny, isn't it? Let's see what else we got here that I want to read real quickly before. Oh, let me read the casualty report. 375, day 375 of the war, at least 42,344 Gazans were killed, at least 99,013 wounded, 3,007 persons more than day 355, equals 141,057 casualties. A utter shame. All right, let's continue. Let's see. Keep that in mind. The war continues. The war continues. Paul Fleming says, good news. The 11th Circuit Court ruled that an Alabama law limiting who can help voters with disability can cast absentee ballots will remain blocked for the 2024 election. That is true. And also in Georgia, in your state, Paul Fleming, they can. The word is shall. In other words, the ballots will be counted by, meaning shall occur by that date certain. Okay, let's see. Breed says Trump at town hall stops questions and plays music and dances. He also said, and the guy's crazy, sick. Video shows people leaving. Let us not even speak of Coachella Valley bus. Yeah, he left a lot of people stranded. That's the only reason they couldn't leave. They needed a bus to get off. That is so funny. All right, I want to play this one here about black men because I think it's important what you said, brother Paul Fleming. And I want to play what I did this morning. I cleaned it up some to shorten it. Here it goes. I want the media to do its job. I want the media to inform all of us. I want our media to be unbiased. I want our media to say, you know what? First of all, I am sorry that I had to make the point about black men, white women, because I think race is one of the most stupid things out there because it really makes no sense. It has no meaning. When we say it's a social construct, that is exactly what it is. But we are in a racialized society. Now, yesterday, as I'm preparing for the 3 o'clock show, I'm watching MSNBC and I'm watching Andrea Mitchell, a reporter that I respect, a reporter that I know she's rather conservative, but I mean, it doesn't matter to me if you're given real news, whether you are conservative or not should not matter. Because news is news is news. You can have a point of view, but news is news. And yesterday, she really went sort of, I don't want to say after Kamala, because that's not what she was doing. She was just making a big issue out of black men voting in a lesser amount, lower percentage for Kamala Harris than black men usually do. It's something that seems to be happening. All right. And the reason, everybody's looking into that is, could that cost Kamala the election? Yes. But there are a lot of things that could cost Kamala the election, right? But the thing about it is, if people are voting on their best interest, if people are voting for what they think is best for them, then it is incumbent on the media to point out to people, well, by the way, if you are voting this way, remember this is what this stands for. And as a group, since we racialize everything, there's an issue with the way you vote. I want you to listen to this cut here, and then I'm going to expand on it a bit and tell you what really perplexed me, what really got me upset with it. And then we'll go ahead and take it thereafter on the other side. Check this out.
Kamala Harris has done something she has not done before, agreed to an interview with Fox News with Bret Baier on Wednesday night in Philadelphia. So that is a big deal. One of the criticisms is that she's only been going to friendly interviewers. She has not challenged herself with that kind of interview up until now. Valencia?
Well, I would kind of disagree with that, because she actually has gone to the hard journalism interviews. I think one of the criticisms that people aren't actually overtly saying is that she's spending a lot of time doing media that speaks directly to voters. Like, she just interviewed with the Shade Room and Roland Martin that speak to Black voters specifically. She's going to Fox News. She also offered to do another debate that Donald Trump was scared of. I do want to push a little bit on this conversation around who her voters are, given that I have been in presidential politics for numerous campaigns, particularly working with Black voters. I am a Black voter myself. Listen, Vice President Harris and her campaign rolled out an economic policy plan today for Black men in particular. But the reality is, whether or not Black men vote at the same margin, at the 1 to 2% shifts, they are still the second highest voting bloc of the Democratic Party. We're seeing margins shift in Latino communities, the API communities. And the reality is, if abortion is the number one issue, the conversation also has to include why majority of white women continue to vote with Donald Trump in the last two elections. And so we actually have to make sure we are not demonizing Black voters in this conversation, and having the conversation that Vice President Harris is having.
And that's it. In such a close election, let me just push you on that for a moment. Those margins, yes, of course she's getting the overwhelming majority of the Black vote. There's no question about that. But if she's getting a smaller margin of Black male voters or Hispanic, that's enough to make a difference in this tight election. And I think that from all of my reporting, the campaign is well aware and really concerned about that. That's why they're focusing this way. And I would just say that sitting down for an interview with Bret Baier on the Fox News network is something she has not done before.
Listen, I'm not disagreeing that it's something the campaign just should be paying attention to. However, what I'm saying is we should not continue to demonize voters who are actually making their own informed decision, when there are a lot of issues that talk to the wider coalition that we need to continue to bring over to the Democratic Party fold. Again, this conversation around particularly white women that had started happening in 2016. Yes, those margins with young Black voters, young Black men, are extremely important. We still have 3 weeks out. To be honest, a lot of people are just starting to pay attention to the election, those who don't watch the news like we are in every single day. But I want to make sure we're not having this conversation where we are demonizing folks for making an informed decision. And the reality is, Vice President Harris is going directly to these voters and having these conversations and listening.
Well, I don't think she's demonizing. I'm just saying that. I mean, she's making a big effort to reach out to that sector. But
yeah, I think that you're demonizing Vice President Harris. I think the conversation is solely focused on Black men in a way that I think is unfair to the accountability that we have to hold all pieces of the electorate that make up the coalition that could.
Do you think that then President Obama's appeal was misplaced, and was that a mistake? Because he's the one who really amplified that conversation.
Yeah, so look, I think President Obama was trying to have a candid conversation with some voters, and there are some voters that it worked for and some voters that it did not work for. And you will continue to see more people talking to different segments of the population. Let me be honest, Black voters are not a monolith, right? And so one messenger may work for one and one messenger may not work for another. And so again, you will see the Harris campaign continuing this week, talking to Black voters. They're having these They had some watch parties this week in some battleground states with some key surrogates who are Black men. You had her again on these interviews. She's sitting down with Charlemagne tomorrow. So we're having the conversation. They're having the conversation. And I do think you will continue to see more people have support. And listen, one messenger is not going to get the entire community.
Here is the problem. The first thing that Andrea Mitchell said was that Kamala Harris didn't do serious interviews. She implied she didn't do serious interviews with people who didn't understand, who didn't agree with her, etc. Meaning she didn't do Fox News. The reality is Donald Trump didn't do MSNBC. So there is that imbalance of, well, Kamala didn't do this, Kamala didn't do that. But let's say that's true. Why not do the same with Donald Trump? The second thing she did is when the panelists pushed back, Alencia pushed back and said, look, I understand that the Black men vote may be off, let's say 2-3% from Kamala from the high. It still turns out that Black men have been voting Democratic because of informed reasons why they do. But if we agree, which all the polls say that two of the major issues in this election, one is women's reproductive rights, and two is the economy, right? Why is it that you are not asking the same question of white women who currently in the current polls are polling more? They are voting, I think, by 2% more for Donald Trump. While women in the entire country, there's a huge gap. It is made up mostly of women of color that are so much invested in electing the Democrat who is not denying women's reproductive rights. When 67%, more than 67% of all women, more than 60% of white women want their reproductive rights protected. Why don't you put the same onus that you're putting on Black men on white women as well? That would be an informed way of dealing. The media deals with the issue because sometimes people need to have a jog. And by the way, a 1 percentage point change in white women compared to a 1 or 2 percentage change in Black men is huge because there are so many more white women than there are Black men. So if we get a 2 or 3% shift in white women, the election is over. And remember, I want to point out, I am using race because we're in a racialized country, not because I believe there's something about race that really makes a difference. And as such, it would seem that it would be educational, it would be informative if the narrative was, well, Black men have moved 2 percentage points towards Trump, and we have white women voting for Trump by a margin of 2 or 3% over a vote for Harris, even though most white women support, just like the rest of women, support reproductive rights. They support a better economy. Suppose Andrea Mitchell also pointed out to white women that if you are an economic a person voting on the economy, just like on the Rachel Maddow show yesterday, points out that every single factor within the economy under Biden, even though it's not advertised, even though people don't come out and say it, has been better under Biden than Trump. And you may say, well, what about inflation? Now, that's an interesting issue because the inflation, while it's true, it's also caused by the supply chain problem created by Trump and the mismanagement of COVID done by Trump. Media matters. Media matters, and how a story or the news is framed matters. And because of the way the media is framed, it does an injustice to Black men, white women, white men, everybody that's racial. It does an injustice because people don't see the full narrative. And then they work on that bad information. Supposed that the media was pointing out that, by the way, black men that are thinking about voting for Trump, do you know he wants to immunize police officers? Immunizing police officers, meaning your bodies who's been battered more so than any other bodies by cops, will be battered more with no consequences. Suppose she said, hey, white women, what you've heard about the economy, the policies of Kamala versus the policies of Trump makes more sense for you young women that are going to have a kid. For you, I met a listener to this show yesterday at a Democratic political event last night. And she came up to me and said, hey, I listened to your show. I just love when I meet our folks in the person outside. And she said, I listened to your show. And she said, I want to call in sometimes, but sometimes I don't know what to say. And I said, you always have something to say. Call in. But the other thing she told me is, I have a story for you. And she told me a story about a friend on chemotherapy. And chemotherapy changes your hormones, and your birth control pills don't work as they should or they normally would. So she even taking the birth control pills, not knowing that she got pregnant and needed an abortion because there was no preparation for having a kid or anything of that nature. She's in Texas. She was able to get an abortion before the laws were passed. And the question to my listeners, she said, in today's Texas, she could not have gotten an abortion. She would have been stuck or have to leave the state. These are the things we're talking about, my brothers and sisters. The media matters. Being informed matters. We have to be informed. All right. We have to be informed, folks. We've got to be informed. And you know what? There's another piece that I want to talk about. And that is, Trump has been talking a whole lot. I just broke off of economy. A lot of people are interested in the economy. When economies are compared, when the policies that each candidate is going to put forward are compared, all the economists or most of the economists, the vast majority of the economists come out with one thing that they all say, and that is the economy that would come out of Kamala's budget or Kamala's policies would be way ahead of Donald Trump's. Period. Punto y final. But here is the thing, folks. Here is the thing. Donald Trump has a lot of the workers, a lot of the union workers hoodwinked. They believe that in as much as they're in a union, they think they want Donald Trump because they believe Donald Trump is going to be out there fighting for them. And why do they believe that? Because the way Donald Trump talks about tariffs, Donald Trump makes them believe that tariffs is a good thing for them. Let me be very careful and very factual. There are reasons to have tariffs. There are reasons to have selected tariffs on your particular sector if the other country is subsidizing something that you are not subsidizing in your own country. But there are also reasons to have tariffs to ensure that you can maintain a particular manufacturing base so that if there's a pandemic that occurs, cheap stuff don't just flow into the country. All of that is true. But what Donald Trump had said he wants to do is to blanket apply a 20% tariffs across the board on imported things, but more importantly, and put a $200, $300% tariffs on a lot of other stuff. That is irresponsible. That would send a shock through the market, and that would also cause severe inflation. Not me saying, although I would say it based on the calculations, because remember, the tariffs are not paid by the countries who the tariffs applies to. I repeat, the countries that gets the tariff, if he applies a tariff to products coming from China, China does not pay the tariffs. The tariffs are paid for by the companies who buy the products from China and sell it to you, and they must recover their costs. And how do they recover their costs? They recover their costs from you. So therefore, when Kamala Harris, VP Kamala Harris, says that the tariffs are nothing more than a sales tax, she is absolutely right. The way it's implemented, it's a across the board sales tax based on what Trump says. Now, remember, I'm being pragmatic here in stating there are reasons to have tariffs. There are good reasons to have tariffs to ensure that you have a manufacturing base for absolutely everything, and also to ensure that other countries don't use you as a dumping ground. But this has to be done in a calculated manner so that they don't retaliate on you and stop buying our farmers' soybeans and buying it from Brazil. Stop buying our farmers' rice and buy it from some other country. All right? Now that I said that, I want to get into the Bible because I preface that with the Bible. If Trump so believed in tariffs, if Trump so believed that we shouldn't be getting things from China, then why is it that all his stuff that could be manufactured right here in the United States of America, he manufactures in China? Not starting because he's been doing this for a long time, but even the Bible that he's going to sell now, or that he's selling, check this out.
We can't continue to allow China to rape our country, and that's what they're doing. It's the greatest theft in the history of the world. China raided our factories, offshored our jobs, gutted our industries.
Our worst of the week bonus round goes to that guy, Donald Trump, because you'd think by now he wouldn't want anything to do with a country he says is responsible for the downfall of American manufacturing and raping us. Well, remember those weird God Bless the USA Bibles that Trump was hawking to his MAGA fans? Guess what? Made in China. According to the Associated Press, 120,000 Bibles were printed in the eastern city of Hangzhou and cost less than $3 to make. And by avoiding U.S. labor costs, Trump got a bit of a divine boost. $300,000 in royalties, according to his August financial disclosure. So the grift really does continue because we're also learning that thousands of these Bibles will likely be bought up by Oklahoma schools, lining the pockets of not only Trump, but also the Chinese manufacturers he says he hates so much. My panel is back with me. So Charles, this is a double whammy because on one hand, it's not just the irony of them being printed in China. It's also the fact that, evangelicals in this country are being duped by this grifter who we're not even going to get into his favorite Bible verse or which Old or New Testament he likes. But, you actually had a Christian group rallying today in D.C. calling on America to get back to God. So it's just like all over the place with this one.
I reject the notion that they're being duped because at this point, how do you not know, right? Like they do know, they're very well aware of this. And like I said at the beginning of the hour, consistency does not matter. Hypocrisy does not matter. And so when you see this, if you put it in front of the so-called Christian nationalists, the so-called evangelicals, they will reject it or find a way to do so based off of some red herring that has nothing to do with the fact that Donald Trump's actions continue to be out of step with his words.
Let me play for this Tim Waltz, what he had to say about this, and I'll get your thoughts.
Found out his Trump-branded Bibles. Yeah, they're printed in China. This dude even outsourced God to China. So just so we know. Again, I'm going to try and be generous here. I don't blame him. He didn't notice the Made in China sticker because they put it inside a place he's never looked in the Bible. So.
All right, but we can't give him off. We can't give it a pass. I hear you. He haven't read it. Yeah, I hear you. I hear that too, Bridge MCP. But no, we hold him accountable. Remember, Trump is such a sick. He's such a whatever that word is. He writes his own checks, paper checks, that is. He pays the bills. He knows where every dollar in his organization is going. So yeah, he knows where these things are made. He knows where things are made. Look, let me tell you something, guys. it is interesting, okay? It is completely interesting that he isn't called out on this. But you know why I play these things? Because believe it or not, there are some people who don't have a clue. And when this is turned into a TikTok, and when this is turned into something else, folks are going to get this in pieces and they're going to say, oh, wow, is that really true? Oh, I didn't know that. And I'm not talking about the sycophancy now. I'm talking about those that are swayable, that are willing to overlook certain things but have a limit. That's what we're talking about. Bruce Pollard is in the house. Welcome, Bruce. How you doing, my dear brother? Melissa says, question. More black women need help with those fraudulent loans offered in 2003 through 2005. Why is the cadence to the black men? Why are we labeled racist for claiming what's due? You're not going to be labeled racist for claiming what's due here or to any thinking person about what occurred with many of the loans. And I think you said 2003, 2005. I think it actually go all the way up to 2008. In fact, I've done several programs with what his I've done several programs with Patrick. I can't think of his name right now. But in fact, he sent me an email recently that said, Egberto, we need to do another program on what Wall Street did to people and how they mostly did it to black women owning homes, black women owning assets. It was a concerted effort that was done. And Detroit paid the price severely for it. So if we're talking on the same wavelength, Melissa, you won't hear that here. By the way, Melissa, I don't know what you mean by thanks for letting you back in. Baby, you have always been in. You have always been in. All right, let's see what else we got here. Michael Rudnin says David Letterman exposed Trump's made in China manufacturing practices way back in 2013. You should have seen Trump's smug smirk when he knew he was caught. It's amazing, isn't it? It is simply amazing. All right, I got another video. I got, I'm video up to date. There's another video that I want to show you. This one has to do with Neil Cavuto at Fox News. As you know, Fox News is kind of letting a whole lot of things slide. They're also having Kamala on Wednesday, and I think that's going to be fun, right? Because right now they have all those gotcha questions that are ready for her. Because come on, it's Fox News now. And I can already see how she's going to make mincemeat out of them. You see, the big problem about this whole thing and Fox News, right, is that Fox News Fox News allow the false narrative about the other candidate, like Kamala being crazy, or Kamala being dumb, or Kamala just having word salads, right? So that is what people are going to expect from her when she comes to an interview on Fox News. It's going to be shocking for them that they actually see a person that was a district attorney of the largest state in the country who went out there, and not only that, she can speak. The woman can speak. I wonder why. I wonder why she's so articulate. Well, when you make a caricature for a long time about others, that's what you get. Well, we can hope that that Barrett, who's going to interview her, will be as straightforward as Neil Cavuto here, who decided to call out Donald Trump on the hurricane. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side. This is pretty short. Check this out.
We also get a lot of misinformation, don't we? We get people who say in North Carolina that if you're a Republican, you're not going to get help. If you're a Democrat, you'll get help. I would imagine that does a huge disservice to people working together and scares the bejesus out of others when they believe it.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things I worried about the false claim that was going on, for example, that had people believing that if you got $750 in right. immediate help, that you were never going to get anything else. What if somebody hears that, they believe it, and then they don't apply for more aid that they could absolutely qualify for? So, there are real costs and real consequences to that misinformation. But
Donald Trump said that about North Carolina, Republicans not getting help, Democrats getting help. That was Donald Trump. And these monies that you get from FEMA, that $750 was the money up front for people who can't access ATM machines, that kind of thing. So it wasn't just a one shot, that's it. It's a way for people to get hands on cash they desperately need, not the only money they will ever get or hope to get. But that kind of misinformation gets out there. And whether it's perpetrated by a politician or someone you think is of someone of note and authority, it is wrong and it is bull. And it cannot be tolerated.
I tell you what, it's interesting, right? I guess a dead clock is wrong, or rather, it's right twice a day. Even if it's non-functional, it's going to hit that hour. Well, not it's going to hit that hour. That hour is going to hit it twice a day. So it turns out that Neil Cavuto did the right thing, and by doing the right thing, just maybe he also might have saved lives. As you know, there's some crazy things happening in North Carolina right now because we have the militia that are hunting down FEMA because of all the conspiracy theories that are out there. It is sick. What's wrong with these MAGA folks, man? I look, I still love all my people, including MAGA people, but my God, you have to wonder what's between your ears if you can fall so easily for things like, we can move the hurricane. We can move the hurricane. Do they understand the size of a hurricane? We can actually direct the hurricane to go through particular paths. Now I'm watching a message here from Bridge that says 70% of the people hurt in the hurricane are Democrats. Where did you find that information, Bridge? Please document that for me. I would love to hear that. If that is the case, that also doesn't speak well for the election, depending on how big that number is, as far as how many people are we talking about, and whether these are people that have wanted to register to vote and are unable to vote. That doesn't sit well. Whether on either side, I don't think weather should really matter that much. But Bridge, I would love to see where that came from. Let's say no one ever said they can move the hurricane. That's exactly what they said in the conspiracy theory. Eric Buonomo. They said that somehow your girl, what's her name? Green, Green from Georgia. She said, "Oh, they can move the hurricane." So let's be very, very clear. MC, what's her name? Mary's, whatever her name is, actually said that. All right, Carl Cox says Eric is wrong again. Well, that's why I don't read some of Eric's stuff. If he says something that is correct and accurate, I will always read it. But I'm not going to verbalize misinformation unless I need to categorize it a bit further. Patrick Magner from Houston, Texas says MGT said it was a man-made hurricane. Is that crazy or what, Patrick? Patrick also says Trump's 29th trip to Mar-a-Lago brings Gulf Tap to 334 years of presidential salary. The president often brags about not taking a paycheck, but his golf hobby has cost taxpayers $133.8 million. Yep, it's a shame, but that's what we are looking at, folks. All right, let's see what else we got here. Ray is on the line. Ray, let me answer that. And before you start talking, Ray, let me go ahead and connect you to the right speaker system. You're on now. Talk to me, Ray.
Yes, sir. I don't want too much time. I know you got some videos queued up, but I just wanted to say, I appreciate Neil Cavuto. Like you say, a broken clock is right twice a day. And I'm glad that Kamala is going to actually step right into the belly of the beast and be on Fox News. And I think some people are going to be surprised. Like you said, I mean, Bernie Sanders was a regular on Fox News for a lot of his time and didn't make people like him any less. As a matter of fact, a lot of conservatives, including I wouldn't even want to call him a conservative, including, Mr. Conspiracy Theorist himself, Trump, respects Bernie Sanders because he's not afraid to go and talk to the Fox News people. So I think that's a good move. And another thing, I saw that video on MSNBC where Obama was talking to the black men. I thought it was an interesting conversation. And I kind of agree on some end because, I do have real conversations with people in community. And I feel like, when people say, they don't know enough about Kamala, it's like, well, you know enough about Trump, and that should be enough, okay? You know what?
Exactly.
I get so tired of these people
Exactly.
that move the goalposts every time this woman does something to try to, make y'all know who she is. Y'all move the goalposts and
But
make it
you,
that much
but
more difficult because you
Ray, I
don't want
want
to know.
Ray, I want to interrupt you for one reason because here's something else, and this is what I'm trying to get around to my entire audience, right? We are always easy to criticize when one particular demographic does something out of order or that makes no sense, right? A black man voting for Donald Trump is almost like suicide if Donald Trump fulfills what he says he wants to do. Donald Trump says he wants to
Agreed.
remove immunity from cops. I am an educated businessman, black man, Latino man, Caribbean man, uh, all those things describe me. And when I look at an election of Donald Trump as a clear and present danger, not to just my financial well-being, but to my life. And the reason why is, and Bruce would tell you, Bruce drives with me. My white brother Bruce drives with me. And when we are in the car, and I remember Bruce talking to, kind of waving to cops and all of that, and I am there sitting down like in a straight jacket. And when we get past this cop on the motorcycle, I look at Bruce and I say, it's kind of cool that you can feel that comfort around cops. I don't. I'm talking about Bruce in the chat right now, my brother Bruce. I don't feel that comfort. And that is how I feel about Trump giving these cops don't need immunity. The people already let them off when they kill black bodies, brown bodies, etc. They already get off. Why and to give
I
immunity
mean,
now?
you give cops that kind of power, you're going to see a George Floyd happen every week, maybe every day. That's the
Every
vision I see with
But
that type of
brother,
power.
Ray, let's be honest. Let's be honest. There are George Floyd still happening in America every day. They're just not
Yes,
televised. They're happening multiple times a day, but they're not televised because of
well,
where they occur.
I agree. And the thing about it, the reason I say that, they'll make George Floyd look like mercy, basically. The
Right,
brutality will be that worse.
right.
Because what Trump said, you heard what he said. He said, let it be brutal. 1 hour of brutality, and it's gonna be real brutal. That's what he said.
Hmm.
He made it a point. He wants it to be very violent.
Exactly.
And
So
I
that is
don't
a
know
that,
any black man, and like I'm a close on this, and I'm gonna let you get back to the show, Egberto. But I agree with Obama when he says, when people say that, it makes me wonder. All the black women that have marched for you, all the black women in your life that have looked out for your back, and the one time you have to put a black woman in power, you're second guessing it. That makes me think: do you even love or care about those people who went out of their way for you? And I agree, because my mother did the same thing for me when I needed her, and I feel the same way about Kamala. If Kamala is in power, I feel like she's going to use her power and her passion and her compassion to actually do the people's work. Whereas Trump is a narcissist and he just talks about me, I, and me. And that's all I got to say on that.
well, thank you, my brother. I appreciate. Whoop. Let me turn this down here. I appreciate your commentary, my brother. You have a great rest of your day. Okay. All
You
right.
as
I
well,
think you.
sir. Take care.
Thank you, man. All right. Look, folks. There is another video, but given that Brother Ray was talking about what Obama had to say, there is a TikTok from. Let me see how long before I still have a few minutes left that I have the 10-minute video I can play. But before I play that, I want to check to see if how long there's a video that I want you guys to see from Roland Martin, because as it turns out, it it says a lot more than let's see if I have it. Nope, I don't have it. Okay, let me go ahead and do the video that I'm supposed to do right now, and then we'll take it on the other side. There we go. There we go. Para ver, para ver, para ver. Aquí está. Ahí.
Well, you got half a page of wisdom over there.
Yeah, and something else on the entrance ramp here, leaving the studio, getting up on 59, heading east. There's a great big sign up there that says 0 premium Medicare Advantage. So
Are you going to rant about that?
Beware. No, it's just something. It's a sign up there, and it's a big lie. All they want to do is get you to flip to Medicare Advantage, and they'll take advantage of you.
Let's go ahead and start with just a little 2-minute thing here on Medicare Advantage versus Medicare, traditional Medicare. First of all, let me tell folks that if you can afford, if it may put you out a little bit, if you can afford traditional Medicare, it is what is best for you. It's the policy. It's what we all call that policy that gives you, the American citizen, the most freedom, because it is you who chooses your doctor. It is you who chooses your health care. That is a government saying, over the decades after decades of you being an employee, of you being a worker, of you being a business person, every single day of your life, every single payment you received, you paid about 3%. And it doesn't matter if you made $10 or if you made $1 million. 3% of that was your premium to Medicare. And for that, we the people, your government, promised you real health care. Now, it also said, because it's sort of an insurance plan, that we are going to pay 80% of your costs, and you would be responsible for 20% of your costs. Let me tell you a dirty little secret. Well, actually, this one isn't dirty. The truth of the matter is, a lot of doctors out there, they know that a lot of people, poor people included, are on standard Medicare, and a lot of times they'll kind of waive the 20%. They won't advertise that, but you can kind of get them to waive the 20% that you owe them, because again, the way it works is a lot of times they even kind of bill a little bit freely. Now, that said, again, remember that traditional Medicare, you get the health care that you need by the doctors that you want. Now, you know how we talk about capitalism and the private sector. I am for the private sector. I am just not for the private sector abusing you, which is by definition what that C word does. Now, there's this stuff that these guys, first of all, Medicare came into be, one of the reasons, because private insurance would not insure older people. Because older people do what? They get sick more often than younger people. So they decided that we can't make money insuring older people. So we, the people, came to your rescue. All Americans came to the rescue of our older folks, also realizing that we all eventually get older. Now, the government took over and it says, okay, we'll pay the premiums for Medicare, for your health care. You will contribute all your working life. You will contribute 3% of your salary. And by the end, when you're done working and become 65 years old, we will start paying for your health care. The private sector said, wow, there is a bunch of money to be made. Medicare standard didn't cover eyes, ears, and teeth, and it's 20%. So it has some cost to the average person. So Medicare has always allowed the private sector to insure that section, that 20%, and the dental and the health and that sort of stuff. And the private sector came in and they made a little bit of money by doing that. The government still took care of the major part of the cost. But that's not enough for the private sector, for the capitalist sector. They said, wait a minute, there are billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars there. Why don't we create something sort of Medicare-like, make it sound pretty, and convince the government to pay us a fixed cost for every single person that sign up with us that's on Medicare? So the capitalists come in now and they say, okay, government, we'll pay you bribes, the lobbyists, for you to vote on allowing something called Medicare Advantage. It's really private insurance governed by some of the Medicare rules. And to convince you to come with us, we are going to offer things that traditional Medicare does not offer: dental, health, dental, ears, and eyes. We're going to offer those things. And we are going to also kind of eliminate that 20% burden. Some of us do, that 20% burden that you have to pay. And in doing that, we also convince the government, that you are going to pay us about 20% more. Remember what the deductible is already 20%, right? But you are going to pay the amount of money you're going to pay for Medicare Advantage for every person would be about 20% more than it really costs overall Medicare. But not only that, you would allow us to categorize how sick the patient is. And based on how sick the patient is how much we are going to tell the government you should give us for each of these people that we insure. And we are going to have outside companies come up and teach us how to make people look sicker to the government, but more healthy to the insurance companies. So they make a ton of money on your back. Like I've always told you, capitalism is nothing more than antiseptic slavery. So when Jack Van Beber goes up on that freeway and he sees that sign that says 0 premiums for Medicare Advantage, it is partially true. It is partially true. According to the AP now, there is a catch. The adage that nothing in life is free applies here. The plans charge no premium, but most people who qualify for Medicare still pay a monthly cost for the program's Part B, which covers doctor's visits and other outpatient care. That usually comes out of your Social Security check and will totals up to $164 next year. So they're smoke and mirrors that they come to you, get you to sign up. Once you sign up, you're in, and they bill the government for the thousands of dollars per month for you, whether you get care or not. And then many times they stick you with doctors, not your doctors that they have on contract that are trying to get through Medicare Advantage people like cattle, meaning you don't get good care because they have to pass 50, 60, 70 people through their offices no matter what. So the doctor comes in, sees you for 15 minutes, say goodbye. Another person comes in, the doctor sees you for 15 minutes, goodbye. And you have doctors that are paid and then they're monitored with their performance. I mean, it's a racket. So my contention to you again, for all of you over 65 that are on Medicare, and those of you that are under 65 that because of disability qualifies for Medicare, please do not. If you have any extra bucks in your pocket, think about your health first. Think about going for Medicare, traditional Medicare, and not Medicare Advantage. And if there are any Medicare Advantage salespeople listening to me right now, and saying, oh, my plan is very good, except please feel free to call me. I'll be more than happy to discuss this issue with the best salesperson of Medicare Advantage. So please feel free to call Politics Done Right at 713-526-5738, because I'll prove no matter what you sell, that what you're selling is a racket to the good people of America. To the great citizens of the United States of America, you are ripping them off. You are, in fact, to some extent, by selling them what you sell them, you're putting their lives in danger. And for the big profit you get for every single sale, some of these guys make over $2,000 and sometimes more just for selling you a policy. That's why they'll take you to lunch. They'll take you to Luby's. They'll take you to breakfast, and they'll take 10 of you at one time. And then they'll say, sign this up. This is good for you. And you get a belly full and you feel, I got me a free meal. And for a free meal, they've gotten your $10,000 from the government for your health care, which they don't give you much for that result. Any salesperson want to call, please feel free. I would love to hear from you. Let's see, for the listeners, for my listeners over 65 that are getting ready to take Medicare, let's see how many calls come in from the great insurance companies that are fooling you to kingdom come. Please call 713-526-5738. And by the way, you can also, folks, tell them to contact our 3 o'clock show if they are asleep right now and they're trying to convince you to get that policy. Have them call our 3 o'clock show. Anyway, folks, Jack Van Bever again hijacked Politics Done Right by bringing up a subject that was not on the menu for the show today. Jack Van Bever, that's my one of my engineers out there. Yes, yes, he hijacked the show and caused me to do that entire. Actually, I broke the rant down to about 10 minutes. I think it was like 15 minutes before I broke it all down. Anyway, there is the thing on the that brother Rudnin wants me to put in politics. As of today, do you consider yourself a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent? The people that are on the surge right now are whom again? Independents. And I don't blame them, right? I don't blame folks calling themselves independents, but all those people that call themselves independents are actually politically affiliated with one or the other party. But I love that they claim themselves independent because to me, somebody that says they're independent says that it's a persuadable vote for what is right. So I like that. Now, according to Gallup, it's 27-27. So it's not hard to believe what who said that it was that. I think CSAC says that there are now one Republicans are plus one. All of that will vary back and forth. I really don't care, right? I just care about policy. All right, we're at 58 right now, which means we are at the end of the show. And you know what I got to do now? I got to say, folks, please support the program however you can. And how can you do that? You can support the program by becoming a paid subscriber of our newsletter. And how do you do that? You can become a paid subscriber. And I promise, our newsletter, anybody who subscribes to our newsletter gets to read all 5 of my books on Substack. See this? Well, that's Tom Hartman's book. You get to read all of my books. As I say, let me put those on the screen because that's important. If you subscribe to my newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, which I'm putting in the chat right now, you are able to read every single one of my books. I'm putting them on the screen right now. As I see it, Class Warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. It's the other one is How to Make America Utopia. Take away the economy from those who rigged it. You can also get Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. You can also get my It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relative Friends and Neighbors. They are all on the Substack. So anybody who subscribe, I mean, it's only a coffee or so, guys. You subscribe to our Substack, you get our newsletter. Our newsletter goes out every day. We also put out what we're doing on Politics Done Right in the morning at KPFT. So it's a full thing. And Breach tells me, thank you, my beautiful Breach. She tells me to remind you guys that we also have a whole lot of swag. And I'm trying to pull the swag up right now. You can go to our store, right, and get our cups, including a cup that was designed by the one and only Breach MCP as well. But here is, I tell you what, I'm going to put that on the screen. Here is all the swag that you can get at politicsdoneright.com/store. Politicsdoneright.com/store. You can go ahead and get all our t-shirts and our swag bags, the whole works. Our Politics Done Right hat that some of us like to sport. But again, that is how we support being able to give you these programs. You can also find a lot of different ways to support us by going to politicsdoneright.com/support to support the program, or politicsdoneright.com/books. If you want to get a hard copy of the books and not just read it online, you can go to politicsdoneright.com/books. But again, what I'm asking, major, is to please support our newsletter. Our newsletter is a good source for us, and you get something in return all of the times as well. We're sending you our newsletters, we're sending you what's going on, and we have specials that we give to the people who are paid subscribers of the newsletter. So please consider being a paid subscriber of the newsletter. I got to get out of here. It's 4:01. Anyway, folks, thank you all for being here. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right,
I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.